So yes, today's topic is driving business growth through paid media in 2024. So just a very quick recap about the agenda and some of the talking points that we're going to be discussing today. So who we are, the benefits of paid media. I'm going to be talking a little bit about market trends that we're seeing in the beauty industry, changing paid media strategy, how to make your budget work harder, competing with big brands and stockists, which is obviously a big issue for beauty brands, how to use AI in paid media, navigating a cookieless world, and when not to use paid media. So this isn't a sales pitch, so I'm not going to spend ages talking about who we are. Hopefully a few of you might be aware of who we are as at Foundation, but we're an agency that solely work with beauty and wellness brands. So you can see here on the right that we've worked with some amazing brands from the likes of Space NK to Benefit Cosmetics. So you're in very, very good company here. So we're a performance marketing agency. So as well as PPC, here are some of the other services that we offer. So I won't go into loads of detail about these now, but if anyone does have any questions about any of these services, then please do reach out to me at the end, and I'd be happy to pick this up with you. Likewise, throughout the webinar, please do add any questions that you have in the chat box, because we do have a little bit of time at the end to do some Q&As. So yeah, please put your questions in there, and we'd love to go through them at the end. So to kickstart the webinar, I wanted to find out a little bit more about you. So I've just got a very, very quick poll about how you guys are using PPC as your company, or if you're a freelancer. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind just kind of quickly answering this poll. So are you actively using PPC? Are you considering using PPC? Are you scaling back your PPC, or are you doing something different? So if you wouldn't mind just adding in your how you're using PPC, just to give us a little bit of a flavour about who we're talking to today. Perfect. I'll just give a couple more seconds for anyone else to add in how they're using PPC, but we won't dwell on these for too long. We've got a lot of information to get through. Cool. So yeah, I can see a lot of you are actively using PPC, which is probably why you're here, which is great. Cool. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Alex, who is our paid media manager here at Foundation.
Amazing. Thanks, Liv. So again, thanks all for joining, and really interesting to see how you're using paid media at the minute. I think just to start off with, just want to do a quick recap of what the main advantages of PPC are, for those that may be considering using it more in the future. So first one being, it can bring quick success to brands. It instantly allows you to access your target audience. For example, with Google search, advertising provides you the capability to appear at the top of the position on a relevant search and results page, as opposed to SEO, which brings sort of more longer term organic success. Another big advantage of paid media is that it covers all stages of the traditional buyer funnel. Whether your goals are focused around increasing brand awareness and visibility, increasing traffic to site, or increasing the number of sales, number of leads, etc., paid can directly assist with them all. And finally, it integrates with multiple digital marketing functions. A true PPC strategy aligns with SEO, organic social, email marketing, and more. And, complementing all the digital marketing efforts will bring the best omni-channel success for your brands. So we often get asked how PPC helps other digital platforms perform better. So I'm going to run you through a few example scenarios. So we're going to start off with SEO. And then once you've successfully identified your long-term keyword growth areas within your SEO targets, PPC can help acquire short-term success whilst their organic rankings increase across 3, 6, 12 months. And we're looking at more from a technical SEO perspective. Improvements in page speed can help your ad performance. As the better the UX, the higher your ad rank. When it comes to organic social, they commonly go hand in hand these days, but a joint paid and organic strategy combines a mix of both successful community building, increased brand visibility, and increased sales. And, organic social teams, ideally in an ideal world, they can update the PPC team members on top performing creatives and copy variations. These can be then either boosted or incorporated into future creative reviews or recommendations for the wider team. When it comes to PR, if there are a target list of publications that you've identified, what we can do from a paid perspective is create custom audiences of people that have visited these publications. So this means that people that are seeing your PR campaigns are then being retargeted across various paid channels, be it Google, paid social, with the same messaging you're wanting to achieve. So it's really effective for increasing brand awareness. And finally, with email lists can be uploaded into all major advertising platforms to then be used for remarketing. And it's great when you can align comms across both email and paid ads to drive that consistent messaging across a particular target audience. And aligning email and paid is really best used to increase the customer lifetime value and increase website traffic over time. I will now pass you to Liv, who's going to touch on some market trends.
Cool. So here are some of the main trends that we're seeing across the beauty industry in the last year. So there's a few here. I'm not going to go into detail about all of them, just in the interest of time, but I'm going to focus on a few of them that are a little bit more relevant and contextual to PPC. So first of all, cost consciousness. So we're still living in a cost of living crisis at the moment, so consumers are more cost conscious than ever before. So whether they're shopping or researching for new products, consumers want to, at the very least, feel like they're getting their money's worth. So this goes for not only the effectiveness of the product, but also the experience that goes alongside both the researching and the buying journey that the customer can enjoy. So paid campaigns should be really sensitive to this current climate. So how they're talking to the customers, who they're talking to, and how they're putting that message across in the ad copy. Speaking to the right generations is really important. So, for example, Gen X, they are often the biggest widely overlooked generation, but the one that has the biggest spending potential. So they are actually outspending both younger and older demographics. So brands really need to make sure that they've got campaigns geared up for them and that they're speaking to them in the right way. And on the contrast to that, we've got Gen Alpha. So we know that tween skincare is a really big topic at the moment within the beauty industry. I'm sure you've all seen it on your socials. We've actually just uploaded a new blog to our website that we do a bit of a deep dive about how brands can do this and speak and help brands out in that sense. So we wanted to touch on that, about how brands can educate this generation about skin health and tackle the negative anti-aging narrative. So brands do have a responsibility alongside both influencers they work with, as well as the parents themselves, to help the younger generation understand both the science and the impact, both the positive impact, as well as the potential risks of exposing their skin to certain products. And finally, TikTok. So TikTok Shop is now a formidable player in the world of social commerce, so it can no longer be avoided. So thanks to its very visual storytelling and user-driven content, it's a great way for brands to connect with the younger audiences in a very authentic way and drive both brand awareness and sales. So here at Foundation, we have access to several different platforms that give us access to different market trends within the beauty industry. So here I've got a little snapshot across 4 top-level trends within the beauty industry. So hair, nails, skincare, and makeup. So I often deep dive into this and feed any of these insights back to our clients, as well as into the content that we create on our blog and in our white papers, as well as feeding it to new opportunities for our paid campaigns. So it can be really useful drilling into these industries and seeing which ones are performing really well or which ones might be slowing down. And I can actually drill into these categories and further into subcategories as well. So on the next slide, I'm looking at makeup specifically, and we can see, for example, concealer has actually got increased 7% over the last year and actually is predicted to grow another 7% in the next 12 months. So from this, we can deep dive into even finer details, looking at who are the biggest, most searched for brands, what are the most searched for key terms and queries, questions related to that subcategory, as well as things like concerns and benefits. So hopefully you can all see that there's one example here, dark circles has actually fallen 8% year over year. So how we use these, we can take these terms, whether they're trending up or they're declining, and we'll make sure that these are either added or removed from our paid campaigns to ensure that we're not missing out on any potential relevant traffic or that we're wasting any budget. So how can we utilize these trend data in our paid campaigns? So knowing who your audience is really important, and how the interests and the preferences change over time. So it's really important to frequently revisit who your audience profiles are and ensure how you're targeting them is still really relevant. So platforms we use across social and search are constantly evolving. So this is going to really be impacting how consumers are searching for and buying products. For example, we've already mentioned TikTok and how TikTok Shop's popularity is increasing exponentially. So beauty brands, like I said, can no longer avoid this platform. So even if your demographic is older, we're seeing shifts towards TikToks for both browsing and purchasing across all generations. Knowing what people are searching for is a key for any paid campaign success. So keeping an eye on these keywords, what's gaining in popularity and what's falling, will help optimize your budget in the most strategic way. For example, in hair care, we've seen a rise in the search for hair tonic. So making sure this keyword is added to your campaign for like hair serum is a really great way of making sure that you're staying relevant to what people are searching for. And then developing ad creatives, copy and content, and incorporating trending topics and themes. So this could include creating content that capitalizes on popular memes, current events, cultural phenomena that's going on at the moment. So utilizing trending music in your social ads is a really great way to help build your brand's relevancy. So there are a lot of free trending sounds that are used across the different platforms, but brands should also be mindful that there is also a lot of ones that you might need to pay for or that might require a license, but there's definitely free ones that you can capitalize on as well. So finally, keeping an eye on what your competitors are doing and how they are reacting or not reacting in a lot of cases. So this is a really great way of giving you a competitive edge. So if you find out what your competitors are doing and if they're jumping on certain trends, you might actually find it more effective to avoid that trend, save your budget and find a less competitive but still trending topic to discuss. Also, looking at your competitors is a really great way to identify potentially some other opportunities for your brand.
Amazing. So now I'm just going to touch on changing paid media strategy. So just to recap, bringing it back to one of the main benefits of paid media is that you can cover all aspects of the traditional marketing funnel. You look on the right hand side, and this is just sort of a subset of campaign types that we can actually utilize through paid media to drive different goals within the funnel. You look at the top, you've got display and demand gen campaigns, which are great to introduce, a relevant audience base to your brand and your products and services. Here we can utilize what are called in-market audiences to target those who are actively browsing beauty products and services, like, for example, vegan skincare, hair and scalp care. And then when you move down the funnel, you get to some of the more high intent channels such as search remarketing and search in general, which are both really powerful to capture the prospects already actively looking for your products and services, and really strong drivers of sale and lead intent. But I guess the question is, what insights can we gather, and how can you best influence and engage with your target audience through each of these channels?
So knowing who your audience is and how to target them at these different stages of the funnel is a really vital tactic in getting your marketing strategy right. So another research tool that we often use to help guide our strategies and get more insight into the attitudes and behaviors of a typical beauty consumer is a platform called Global Web Index. So I've pulled some typical characteristics commonly found in the beauty consumer. So typically they're very socially active, they engage with brands on social media, and they use social as a tool for brand discovery and social proof. So while typically financially secure, the beauty consumer is still quite price conscious. However, they do favor premium products if they see the value. Then they are willing to invest in these. Finally, beauty buyers aren't very spontaneous, so they make pretty considered purchases, and they really value high expert opinions and peer reviews. So the below graphs are also taken from GWI. So when exploring typical behaviours, I can see that the beauty consumer, social media is a really common theme in all of these purchase drivers and how consumers discover brands. So social proof, easy returns, and good customer service is all really important to them. Unsurprisingly, celebrity endorsements ranked in the top 3 for brand discovery too. So while none of these findings might come as a huge surprise to you, I really hope it provides some justification to the efforts that your brand might be making towards implementing some of these initiatives into your marketing strategies.
Amazing. So now we're going to touch on how you can make your paid media budget work harder, as well as, how you're going to compete with the big brands and the stockists. But before we dive into the meat and the bones, just want to ask a quick question again. At the minute, what is your biggest PPC challenge? Is it that your CPA is too high, the volume's too low, you're struggling to scale spends, get internal buy-in, or maybe it's the fact that, there's too much to manage, there's some time constraints, or maybe something completely different? I'm really interested to find out.
So yeah, we'll just have a couple of seconds for everyone to add their biggest challenge, and we won't dwell on this for too long. Amazing to see. We've got quite a selection of different challenges across everybody. So that's really interesting to see. Cool, perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Amazing.
Cool.
So we've got CPAs too high is the main one. It's fantastic. Moving on then, I first wanted to dive into the common mistakes. So we do audits and work on beauty brands week after week across hair care, skincare, nail care, and beyond. And these are definitely the top 5 common mistakes we see brands making that's limiting their performance. So starting off with overpaying for branded traffic, then we have lack of negative keyword use, lack of first-party data use, lack of A/B testing, specifically around messaging, and incorrect bidding strategy uses. And now we're going to dive into each of these and how we can address each of these common mistakes. So the first one I want to start off with is monitoring brand spend. And there's 3 sort of main points we need to do to address this. So the first one is create a dedicated brand campaign. So by creating a dedicated brand campaign, this allows you to accurately measure how much you're spending on your branded keywords. Now, there's been numerous times where we've gone into accounts and we've seen that, they'll have non-branded and branded within one campaign, which makes it extremely difficult to actually attribute, and measure the success of brand itself. Branded keywords should be excluded from all other campaigns to eliminate the chance of cannibalization. You don't want your branded campaigns inflating results and wasting spends through branded search terms. And then the ultimate goal here of a branded campaign is to reduce the spend on brand to just a few % of your total ad spend, with the aim to push them through organic. If they're already searching for your brand, they're already showing the intent that you want. You don't want to be paying over the odds for this traffic when they could be free to yourself. So the second point of monitoring brand spend is all around correct bidding strategy usage. So, one of the advantages of Google is it allows us to use different automated bidding strategies. One of these being target impression share, or how often we want our ad to show for our branded keywords, which, for a branded campaign, you want at least 90 to 100% of target impression share. So we're showing as frequent as we can for our branded terms. Now, it's worth noting that the higher the impression share target, the more expensive it is likely to be. And that's based on how many competitors are bidding in your actual branded terms. And over time, want to trial gradually reducing the spend of the branded campaign while still maintaining brand protection. Now, what we sometimes see with this is that branded campaigns will use a target ROAS bidding strategy, which is great. We want to achieve a high ROAS over time, but with branded campaigns, that comes hand in hand naturally. So you want to be less focused on the ROAS and more focused on how many times your ad is showing your branded key terms versus your competitors. So how do we monitor our branded impression share? So within Google, there's a great item called the Auctions Insights tab. And this will show you which competitors are bidding on your keywords and what their impression share is. And the higher their impression share, the likelihood is the more money they'll be investing on your branded terms. What you can then do is break this down month on month to show the changes for each competitor over time. So for example, in the run up to key sales periods like Christmas or Mother's Day, you can monitor how aggressive they are or unaggressive they are in that run-in and compare year on year. Moving on to the second common mistake we see then is negative keyword structure. So for those who may not know, negative keywords are essentially keywords that we want to exclude from our campaigns to essentially improve results and drive efficiencies over time. So what are some examples of this? So with negative keywords, you can achieve real cost efficiencies, from preventing your ad from appearing in irrelevant searches. It means you're not spending money on clicks that are unlikely to convert, leading to a more efficient use of your budget. Another advantage would be that you'd like to see an improved click-through rate. If you're only bidding on relevant terms that matter to your brand, the audience you're going after is likely to be more engaged with specific keywords, and your copy is going to be resonating better, driving higher click-through rates, and in turn, improving your ad quality score. Why is quality score important? Because the higher your quality score is, it often leads to reduced cost per clicks, which again helps with that budget efficiency. And from a sort of a top level perspective, negative keywords are just great at increasing that return on investment, as you are only investing in those high performing, high value keywords. We're looking to identify which terms to negative. Essentially what you want to do is just filter terms by cost versus the KPI performance you're going after. So if this is purchases, you can filter by cost and purchase to see which terms are driving the least purchases for the most cost and start there and work your way through. Or if you're looking for engagement, you can look at keywords that have the lowest click-through rates, those that really aren't driving that qualified traffic to site. When it comes to negative keywords, you can take different approaches to doing this. So you can split them by ad groups, campaign, or account level. By applying negative keywords at the ad group level, you can ensure that your ads are displayed only when the search queries align with the keywords within that ad group. And this level of precision, allows for better ad targeting, increases the relevancy of your ads, and improves the overall performance of your campaign. On the other end of the spectrum, we have account level negative keywords, or these are otherwise termed as shared lists. By utilizing negative keyword shared lists, what you essentially do is you establish a consolidated source of all the negative keywords that can be easily updated and synchronized across all campaigns. So rather than having to go into each campaign one at a time, you can take terms that are relevant for other campaigns and apply them across your whole account. So that does help you achieve some time efficiencies there. The third mistake we see is then how brands use first-party data. Now, your first-party data is key when looking to compete with big brands and retailers especially. This is how we can signal to Google, Meta, TikTok, who our current customers are, what characteristics they have, and who is similar to them, which we can also serve our ads to. The more in-depth and integrated your first-party data sources are, the bigger your advantage becomes. And when we talk about first-party data, think of stuff like customer lists, email subscribers. As I mentioned, a lot of the big platforms have integrated email functions. And then when you look across more paid social platforms, you can look at current page followers and post likers on Meta as well. When looking to incorporate first-party data, it really is essential when you want to decrease that customer acquisition cost and increase customer lifetime value with that customer retention rate as well. How is this done? This is done through planning and utilizing different customer journeys. Now, on the next slide here, I've mapped out some example customer journeys. of what you can use once someone has visited your site, in terms of which remarketing pool they'd fall in and what messaging we can use here. So at the top, somebody, for example, who has browsed the products but not made a purchase, they'd go into a lower intent remarketing pool. They can then be served ads with, did you know about these products messaging, just to increase the awareness of the different products or services that your brand offers that they may not have interacted with when on your site. When you move down, you look to add to cart but no purchase, you can look to utilize dynamic remarketing here. So, retarget those with the items that they've left in your cart saying, have you forgotten about messaging? Another way to increase that customer lifetime value and decrease that customer acquisition cost. Moving on down to then the bottom, the bottom retention group. So we've got the successful purchase over the average order value, which, in this case, we've used £55. And this is going to be your most valuable remarketing pool. And in this most valuable remarketing pool, what you want to focus on are ads that promote product launches, product reminders. For example, if you have the data that, for example, one of your hair care serums, it takes about a month or 2 months to go through on average, in 2 months' time, you're going to want to run a campaign to this audience group with some restock messaging. And finally, it's great for promoting loyalty scheme messaging as well. These people love the brand, they love your products, and we want to reward those for those in the long run. The fourth mistake then is all around messaging and understanding what works. So when looking at messaging, there's two sort of main thoughts trains you can go down. So when looking to measure from an engagement perspective, you want to look at stats like clicks and click-through rates. How well is your ad doing at driving traffic to sites? Is your copy lining up with the keywords, with the search intent? And what are the results from that? When you're looking to measure from a conversion perspective, you'd want to be looking at sales, leads, CPA, and the conversion rates. Which ads and which messaging lines are driving the best bottom line results? Is it around price? Is it around price? Is it around brand USPs? Or is it around brand story? Because it will differ brand on brand. When it comes to creative refresh, we look to carry these out every 4 weeks to allow for accurate testing. Now, we found that if you, say, for example, you want to refresh creative every 2 weeks, we found that it doesn't really give enough time to test in the paid media space, and you don't get the most accurate set of results. And when you go longer than 4 weeks, say up to 6 weeks, that's when you can start to see ad fatigue, and those click-through rates will start declining, and conversion rates as well, once they're exposed to the same messaging, the same creative over and over again. And this is why frequent A/B testing is one of the key components in understanding your audience and long-term growth. Well, how can we best use A/B testing within copy? Well, there's various tools across different platforms, but one of the main ones, especially on Google, is responsive search ads. So I put this graphic on the screen just to sort of visualize how responsive search ads work for those that maybe don't know. But essentially what you can do is you place between 3 to 15 headlines and 2 to 4 descriptions with your landing page URL. And what Google will then do is create different combinations of those headlines and descriptions to see which works best within your desired audience group and that keyword that you're targeting. So, for example, it might find that a brand headline pairs well with a promotion headline and then a description that is based around the brand story and the history of the brand. Within Google then, what you can then do with responsive search ads is look at the ad reports. What you can see in these ad reports is the text variants that drive the best results over time. So, for example, I can see that headlines have a good ad quality, a low ad quality, or they're still in the learning phase. Once I see that a headline or description is underperforming, I will then look to replace that with some new copy to improve that overall conversion rate and click-through rate over time. Finally, then, just finishing off with the last mistake that we make, and it's all around objective setting. Now, the first step here is obviously going to be around internal KPIs. So, what is your focus for the next financial year? Is it to maximize brand awareness, increase your first-party database, drive traffic to site, or is it to increase sales revenue and focus on that ROAS and decreasing that customer acquisition cost. Each of these objectives will affect the way that you bid in the Google or the Meta auction. The second point then is just around correct bidding strategy. So, once you've agreed what your focus is for the next year, how do we select the right bidding strategy? And, Google Ads gives you several ways to bid in the auction. A lot of these are now automated based. So we touched on target impression share earlier, but we've also got objectives such as, target ROAS, which is great for driving return on ad spend, or we've got maximize conversions, which, if you're a slightly newer brand and you're looking to generate as many conversions as possible, this is probably the best route to start with before focusing too much on the ROAS side of things. Finally, it's not a one size fits all thing. Bidding strategies will change over time, and you do need to test these. If you have different campaigns running with different bidding strategies, you can align which one's working best. So one campaign may succeed while using a target customer acquisition strategy. Another one may be more of a value-based bidding strategy that works well. It's all about testing on an ongoing basis to help optimize your account, reduce costs, stay competitive, and achieve better results.
Cool. So we have, sorry, Alex. We've got a final little poll based on what Alex was just saying about objective setting and discussing what your internal KPIs are. So we'd love to know a little bit more about your main goal of PPC. So is it raising brand awareness? Is it to build traffic, grow your revenue, or increasing your first party data? So yeah, we'd love to hear from you one final time about what your main goal is from your PPC campaigns. So just give a couple of seconds. I can see revenue is the clear winner. Few brand awareness is coming in. We do actually have quite a few smaller beauty brands that actually really focus on brand awareness when it comes to PPC, don't we, which is great because it's really important in those early years to invest in the awareness side of things. Great, okay, I will end these. Thanks everybody for participating in that. So yeah, revenue is the winner, unsurprisingly.
Amazing. So moving on from that, I want to take a quick look at how we can best compare advertising strategies versus the competition. And there's various different tools that we use to do that here at Foundation. So the first one is the Auction Insights tab, which I touched on earlier. So, just recapping, this allows you to see which competitors are bidding on both branded and non-branded keywords and their respective impression share over time. So you can work out, from this, okay, what keywords are my competitors going after, and potentially look at new keywords that potentially they are not currently bidding on. Within the Google Ads ecosystem as well, we also have Transparency Center. So this is great as it allows you to review competitor ads, when we can see things sort of, what types of ads are they running? Is it display, search, video, dynamic search? What messaging themes are they using? Is it around the product USPs? Is it more about the why behind the brands? And finally, what extensions are they using? Are they using price extensions that outline the sales they're currently having? Is it promotions? Is it site links? Where are they directing traffic to within their sites throughout all of their ads? Similarly to Google Ads Transparency Center, all of the paid socials, all the major paid socials have their own ads library. Unsurprising, with paid social, creative is so key for success. So this is a really useful tool when doing creative reviews, looking at competitors' style of videos, the creators that they're using, the call to actions that they're incorporating throughout. Furthermore, Meta has already started rolling out a new layer of transparency, so we can see how much spend a brand has put behind a particular ad in certain European markets, and this is looking to expand over time. Finally, then, there's a host of third-party tools out there, and one of the main ones we use here is Ad Clarity, which is part of SEMrush. And these are great at providing a new layer of insights across paid media platforms that sit outside of ones that are readily available. Here we can see the sort of, what are the competitors estimated to spend across all channels like search, display, and paid social. And also, what are the user journeys that those competitors are pushing across all their ads? Are they directing it to the homepage, to product pages, service pages, or they're directing it to pages about the brand when they're in the early stages of their company lifecycle? On this slide here, to finish off this section, I want to just have a look at how we can best address retailers as beauty brands. So the first point here is all around opportunity spotting. So, when working with retailers, it's important to identify, which paid channels they are covering, and you have to plan your channel strategy around this. What you'll often find is that retailers bid most across Google, like Google Search and Google Shopping. And, where we've had brands in the past is that they've tried to compete head on with these retailers on these same channels. And, from our perspective, there's not too much point in competing with them in certain areas because their budgets will just outweigh and outbid you, 90% of the time when it comes to non-branded searches. So, it's best to essentially plan for channels where they're not putting budget behind. And this tends to be the likes of Meta and TikTok, and leave that budget from the retailers for Google. The second is, again, focusing on branded efforts. So with retailers, what you'll find is that a lot of the activity they do is around bottom of the funnel, and they won't do much brand awareness pieces. It will all be about product advertising and product sales. So what you want to do and able to support this is, focus on branding activity, especially in the first 1 to 2 years of paid efforts in supporting this. The greater your brand awareness will be, the greater the branded searches will become, and the more traffic that we swept up through the retailers over time. So, all of these sales will come back to you. I guess what's important is that you want to try and get as much reporting available from the retailers as you can. I appreciate a lot of the brands that we do work with, this can be limited in cases, but often we have worked with contacts within certain retailers to try and get the most out of our reporting, especially in terms of product splits, date splits, etc., etc. And then the final one then is all around supercharging your creative. So again, when I touched on how the retailers will often focus on, very much bottom of the funnel creatives like product imagery on shopping. What we want to do is produce creative that really understands the customer pain points, their motivation, the purchase drivers, the items that Liv was touching on earlier in the market analysis section. As this is what's going to make your ad stand out from the retailers if you are looking to drive long-term D2C sales on your site. Perfect. So, good. Oh, I skipped past one. No. Perfect then. So this section then is all going to be around using AI in PPC. This is a very hot topic at the minute, and in almost every industry, and it's impacting jobs across the board, and paid media is no exception to that. But how can we use AI within paid media? Well, the first one is all around predicting future trends. The best way to plan for these changes is with predictive analysis. And this is where you look at past and current trends from your PPC campaigns to predict what they'll look like in the future. And this is something that AI can be really helpful for. And when using the right predictive analysis tools, you can generate automatic reports detailing what is likely to happen in your PPC efforts going forwards. So, for example, Performance Planner on Google. This allows you to map out different investment scenarios based on the next 1, 3, 6 months. Obviously, the further you go, the less accurate these may be, but it serves as an idea nonetheless. And what this essentially does is just analyze what different budget levels will help you achieve at what particular conversion rate. And we'll show you an example of what that looks like on the next slide. The second item is all around landing page analysis. So there's different AI PPC tools that exist that will scan your web pages and give you feedback on how well optimized they are. Some of these tools might analyze texts, but with AI, you can also analyze more visual elements of your landing pages. So the example we've got in here is Vision API that's produced by OpenAI. And this helps you produce more visual elements to, see how are people engaging with these elements throughout your landing pages that can help you optimize going forward. The third item, and one we've touched on already, is all around smart bidding. So whilst Google started off with manual CPC bidding, having to change your bids, every day, it was quite long-winded and it wasn't the most efficient use of everyone's time. Now with smart biddings, essentially we just say what we want to achieve, and then Google will do the heavy lifting on how we can best achieve that. So we'll put in a daily budget of £50 to £100 perhaps on maximised conversions. And then Google, within that budget, will find us as many relevant searches as they can of how we can maximize our conversions, which in this case may be a purchase. Finally, then, we've got content messaging and ideation. Now, I will say, this is all around how we can use good prompts, like in tools like ChatGPT, to gather inspiration for messaging and content angles. But going forward, I'll definitely steer clear of using it from a full ad copywriting perspective. As you may well know as well as I, you can often tell what's been written by ChatGPT. So there definitely still needs to be that human content element in there to make it seem authentic to your brand. Now, on this slide, then, I've just got a screenshot of what I mentioned earlier as Google's performance planner. Now, on this slide, you can see on that top graph there, based on the conversion performance in the existing settings, you can see versus the trend line, there's room for improvement based on conversion rates and budget performance. So if I were to increase my conversion rate to some new plan settings, I could achieve a new level of conversions within my given budget. Given these future scenarios, I can also see how my spend will impact conversions and CPA in the graph below between specific time periods. So it just allows you to map out different opportunities of how you can efficiently scale spend on Google Ads in the near to medium future. And finally, then, just capping off the main benefits of AI in PPC. So, one of the main ones is around the enhanced in customer experience. Personalization within AI in PPC advertising is essential for ad success. AI can really help businesses and paid media managers alike provide that personalized experience that addresses various customer pain points. One of the main tools we think of here is dynamic remarketing, which is a great tool to help deliver increased personalization. So, as we mentioned before, you can retarget those that are added to cart but not purchased with those individual products when you're looking to increase revenue and customer lifetime value. When you come to improve targeting capabilities, AI can help ideate different audiences to go after and audience segments that you may not have considered through different AI platforms. When it comes to increased efficiencies, there's no more manual bidding. As I mentioned, let Google's algorithms do the hard work for you. They'll find the optimal bid you need to use to effectively achieve your defined marketing goals. And then advertising creativity. So as well as the ideation aspect I mentioned before, it's great for analyzing performance of different ad elements like the headlines, images, call to actions, responsive search ads, as I mentioned, that really hones in on the AI aspects of PPC advertising. So definitely take advantage of the responsive search ads reports when you're looking to improve your brand messaging over time. So moving on to, a slightly, I guess, not the most glamorous of topic, but it is important nonetheless, and it is navigating a cookieless world. And I guess just a bit of an intro and some actions that you need to take in the near future if you haven't already. So what are the changes around cookies and how are they going to impact you? So essentially what happened in March 2024 is that new privacy regulations have now been enforced and being regulated. I'm not going to bore you with the exact specifics, but essentially the Digital Markets Act stated that, large advertising platforms like Google and Meta are now responsible for collecting user consent in order to run their advertising services. And essentially in response to this, Google is now making it mandatory for advertisers to use consent mode version 2. And What this basically does is just lets Google know whether a user has given consent to track them or not from their own cookie banner. Google will then adjust the tags and tracking to respect those users' choices, and this applies to all advertisers across the European Economic Area. So a large majority of you will be affected by this if you haven't already addressed this. So off the back of this, why should we care? And the main reason is if you don't invest in conversion tracking, you are going to fall behind this year. It's not meant for sort of fear mongering. This is going to be a fact. Your Google Ads performance is directly tied to the quality of your data, and without proper conversion tracking, you're not going to be able to get those desired results. And just on the slide here, I've given a few examples of how you're going to cripple the algorithm. So you're going to get suboptimal results, because the algorithm is essentially restricted from learning properly. It's not going to be able to predict conversions accurately, and it's going to spend your budget inefficiently. So it's going to really counteract everything you're looking to do in all other areas if this isn't addressed. I guess the overarching theme is here that you'll find it much harder to justify the use of paid media when you don't have the fullest picture due to your conversion tracking setup. So how will successful setup give you competitive edge? One of the things is preventing significant data losses, when users don't give tracking consent. I've already mentioned, first party data is key, and it's your digital USP over your competition. And with this consent mode's ability, you'll be able to get modeled data that you can still use in a privacy friendly way in your campaigns. Another advantage is once it's set up, content modes, automatically adjusts if you're set it up through a tag manager, how your tags behave based on the cookie consent of your users. So, it's a lot less manual, and it can be automated through Google's own technology. And this just ensures that you're being as compliant as you can on a continual basis. And finally then, so using consent signals, Google uses conversion modeling, as mentioned, to recover those lost conversions from users who didn't convert to ads cookies. And, when you look back to when Meta first introduced its changes several years ago, conversion numbers were thrown off for a lot of brands, and attribution became a lot less certain. So what consent mode here is trying to bridge that attribution gap as we move further and further away from these third-party cookies. So finally, in this section then, just to wrap up, so how can you prepare? So it's sort of split into two main sort of train of thought. So the first one is around completing a conversion review across all paid channels. So, think of your add to carts, your beginning checkouts, your payments, delivery details, successful checkouts. Ensure all of these events are being mapped. Once this is done, you're then going to want to build a compliant setup. Now, the easiest way that I've experienced in the past is through Google Tag Manager. As I said, these can utilize those consent mode friendly tags to get that, the easiest sort of consent applicable setup on an ongoing basis. However, this is definitely worth following up with your respective dev teams for their existing setup of how you can best address consent mode, because you may have already seen a dip in conversions, and this may be why. So definitely worth making sure that you are applying with all of Google's consent mode regulations. And just to finish then in this final section is just when not to use paid media. So when is paid media not right to use? And one of the first things you have to look at is your overarching goals. So the example I've given here, so if you're looking to improve your overall UX, then you may find that investment in SEO and CRO would be a better use of your money. I guess later down the line, a site that is better optimized and has high UX, will convert paid traffic better. You don't want to be pouring water into a leaky bucket by sending paid traffic to a site that isn't correctly set up yet. When you move to the second factor and you look at time, if time isn't an overriding factor, then paid media might not be the best route to go down. For example, if you're 6 months away from your next seasonal peak, like Christmas, you could recommend investing in an SEO strategy so you have to spend less on paid, and by the time it gets to that peak, you're in a much better organic position to take use of this free traffic coming through to your site. The third item, and it builds on what I've just spoken about previously, is that if your tracking capability is limited, it's probably best to hold off on paid for now. If you can't accurately attribute the results, especially after the new regulations, you're not going to be able to justify the spend if you're not seeing the levels of ROI that you want to achieve from paid. In this scenario, it's worth looking at other channels, such as organic social, which really allow you to build those high value communities, without the need for extensive tracking setups. Finally, then, you don't need to use paid media as much if business priority is retailer growth. In most cases, retailers will already have a comprehensive paid plan for your products included, mostly within Google Ads. And this is a great resource to really rely on rather than spending your own budget, especially in the earlier stages of your brand. And as I said, if you are going down this route, just make sure that you are receiving as much data as you can from your retailer around sales month on month. So that's everything from myself. I guess we'd love to answer some of your questions if there are any.
Yeah, so I've been checking the chat bot, so there aren't any questions at the moment, but please guys, if anyone has a question, got a couple of minutes, we're happy to answer any of those questions. But if any questions spring to mind after the session, then please reach out to me and I'll get Alex's expertise and help you answer any of those burning questions. I'll be following up, I'll be emailing each of you with the recording of this. We are also offering any attendees a free PPC audit. So if you are interested in having us do a little kind of review of your PPC account, then please reply to the email that I'll send you with this recording and just let us know that you're interested in that and we'll get that organised for you. Just check the chat bot again to see if there's any questions. Hopefully no questions is a good thing because we've answered everything. I appreciate it was a lot of information, but hopefully really, really helpful for you. And we're always open to feedback as well. So questions, feedback, please respond to my email or pop it in the chat box here. Yeah, I saw somebody was typing just now. Oh yeah, so maybe some questions are coming in. Alex, do you want me to read it out for you?
Yeah, that'd be good, please.
So Hannah has asked, do you only push Performance Max for shopping ads or would you use standard shopping?
Yeah, so we definitely like to use a mixture of both, especially when for example, if it's a new product. One of the disadvantages of Performance Max is it doesn't give you the level of insights that other more manual campaign types use, like standard shopping. So I think it's definitely worth starting off with standard shopping and trialing Performance Max alongside it. And then over time, if Performance Max performance does increase, then phase out standard shopping, but still keep some presence. I think with Performance Max, one of the main contributors to success with that campaign type is your first party data. So you want to make sure that that is segmented appropriately to the product group that you want to target. It's okay to start off using more generic first party data lists, like for example, website visitors or converters as a whole. But I think if you're really relying on Performance Max, you're going to want to have that first party data segmented to achieve the most success there. So I guess to summarize, I would definitely trial both, but Performance Max longer term if you have the first party data readily available.
Nice, thanks Al. I've got another question here from Kieran who has said, how long should you invest in brand awareness activities as a new brand before you should focus on performance channels such as PMax and shopping?
Yeah, good question, thank you. So I guess it depends where you are in your sort of customer life cycle, your business life cycle. I think, from launching as a new brand, brand awareness should be the focus of your brand for at least the first year to 2 years. I think if you want to start seeing some ROAS from your paid activities, I would introduce more bottom of the funnel activities such as shopping and PMAX around the 6-month mark. After you've built up that brand awareness, I guess, as I mentioned, you don't want to lean in too much into Performance Max until you have that first party data pool. So driving traffic to sites and building those remarketing bases is going to be really important before you can really fully utilize more of those bottom of the funnel campaign types.
Nice. Cool. So yeah, no other questions, but like I say, guys, if you have any questions after, please do reach out to us and we're really happy to help and guide you on this. Yeah, okay, thanks everybody for attending. Really hope it was useful. And yeah, like I say, I'll be sending the recording out so you can kind of refer back to it at a later date. Thank you, everybody.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.